The world won't understand you. Hey, but it's okay. Said the world won't understand you. Cause I made you in my own way. Said the world won't understand you. Cause I made you.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 93 of In a Good Way podcast. Today's special guest is Eric Petersen. He is an NDE experiencer. He's had out-of-body experiences. He's also someone that after the NDE got all these abilities, right? Like what you would consider like psychic, paranormal, different kind of things. So thank you, Eric, for being here. Thank you so much. It's an honor. It's an honor. And I know Eric already for some time, and I knew I was gonna interview him at one point. Yeah, so I'm just grateful that we finally got around to it. So yeah, I mean, since I was about to hop into that, I definitely want to ask you if, and I believe you did. You've had experiences since you were little, right? So if you don't mind sharing about that, I mean, so before even the NDE, you're already experiencing things, right?
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's kind of funny. It's one we refer as the comical experience.
Okay.
I was I was a little child. I think I was around 6 or 7 or 8. So this was around 1973 to 72. I don't know. I don't remember. But I had horrible tonsils, and they went really toxic. And I remember, and I lived in New Mexico at the time, and we had to come up here. I live in Salt Lake now, but we came up here to see a specialist for some. I don't know why we couldn't get somebody to take my tonsils out, but they were really bad. I guess I was pretty set. My blood was bad and everything, and I didn't know how sick I really was. So we got into the hospital up here, and anyway, you're in your little hospital room, and you have about 4 beds or something like that, and you have little curtains every couple of them, and then you have a TV and these are the old 19-inch knob TVs from the 70s. And this is where the experience kind of happens. It's short, but it's kind of funny. It's at least I thought it was really cool as a little kid though. But anyway, I remember in the old days they had the remotes, but they're clickers to a wire. So you took it, you try to click your TV. Well, I tried to do that, but nothing was happening. I popped out of my body, but I didn't realize I had done that. So I was like, what the heck? This is not working. And I just had the thought I'd really got to somehow get up there and turn the knob. Next thing I knew was at the TV. I didn't think about how I got there. And I was trying to turn the knob on the TV. And I was quite high off the floor. I didn't know how high off the floor I was at first. And I went to go turn it, and that was surreal. But mine was not perceiving what was happening. And my hand was going through the TV. It was going through the TV. So I had popped out. I didn't realize this then. And I keep thinking, what in the heck? And actually, the funny thing, as my spirit was going through that, it was staticky. You know how on the old TV, you kind of wipe it, you have the static on the dust when you wipe the dust. It was kind of doing that, surprisingly. And I kept thinking, what in the hell? Why can't I change this channel? And I looked down, and it was probably about, a couple feet off the floor, and I was like a small kid at this time. And you know what I thought? I'm flying.
Oh, wow.
I'm really excited. Oh, flying. I'm so excited. And I'm flying. I was just like, wow, I'm flying. It was cool. And I don't know why I did this. It's kind of like, I just kind of stood there and I put my arms out like you would in a swimming pool. Kind of fun. And I don't know why I did that. It's hilarious. And I just kind of inverted, kind of like from standing up to inverted. And I just hovered. I thought, I'm going to show off the kid in the next curtain because he's watching his cartoons over there. So I floated right above him. I mean, totally right above him. Hey, man, I'm flying. He's just sitting there watching his cartoons, Hey, man, I'm like screaming. It's like he was ignoring. Now, I did not know he couldn't see me, right? I had no idea I was out of the body at all. I had no idea. And man, I would have spit that. I was like from like this far from his face. That's probably about 8 or 10 inches from his face. Hey, man, I'm flying. And he's just watching his cartoons, enjoying the show. And I thought, what a jerk. He is so jealous I'm flying that he's ignoring me. That's exactly what I thought as a child.
Wow.
And I thought, I know I'm going to show off and fly down the hallway and impress the nurses. That's exactly what I thought. And so I didn't think about going through the wall. I just started going to the door. And I just kind of started going out. I didn't make it. All of a sudden, that force started pulling me back like a tractor beat. And it felt like a magnet, almost like how magnets pull each other. That little tug you feel just before they connect. It was like that. So I kind of scooted backwards and went around. And there's a man of light sitting on one of those tables that you kind of have that go over the hospital beds, where they feed you that horrible food. So he's sitting there on the side. The man of light, that was actually Jesus. That was the first time I saw him there.
Oh, wow.
And so the man of light kind of brought me in. So he tracked me in, I guess. I did not know. I saw there was a lump in the bed, but I still didn't associate that necessarily. But I did remember seeing it from the side, and Jesus, or the man of light at that time, he kind of took me in his arm like he would a child, a little baby, and he just took me because I was kind of really frail and I was really sick. And he says, everything's going to be all right. And the next thing, I remember that apparently I got back in my body and I was in bed for a while, and the nurses okay, it's time to come in to get my surgery.
Mm.
And I knew there was something different. I kind of dismissed that, because I didn't know what to think about that for a lot of years, until I had my big, profound one in 1989,
Oh,
which
wow.
is the one I mostly talk about,
Yeah.
and
So how old were you when when you were little, and then
I
when?
I would say around 6 or 7 or
Wow.
8, somewhere. I was really little,
Hmm.
I didn't know, but it was really, I gotta tell you, it was really exciting to think you were flying. I do remember that feeling that still sticks with me. It's like, wow, that was awesome feeling, even though I didn't know what was going on.
No,
You
well, it's funny that you brought it, because you reminded me, and I remember this throughout time, but I used to have like what I thought were dreams of that. And then I'd go so high, I would get scared. I'll be like, oh no, like I'd pass a
Yeah.
building and then I'll just keep going. And then boom, I'd wake up. So I wonder if that's what that was, now that you brought that up.
It was very probably like some type of astral projection in a
Yeah,
sense,
yeah.
but I just was so sick. I don't remember hearing a pop or anything. I just remember wanting to get up and change the channel. And I moved up there, like speed of thought type of thing,
Yeah.
which I didn't understand until later from my my white experience, my near death STE experience, where I was pulled out. And that's the one I usually talk about, where I got more gifts. Now I will back up. My family was pretty gifted originally anyway. My sister could
Oh,
see auras. I could see auras, but they're always clear. I didn't really see color so much like other people. I do later, but that's not all the time too. But I had really high intuition. I could see, especially in nature, I could feel energy really strong.
oh,
And after my ST NDE, when I came back and studied with the Native Americans, I'd explain that to them. They helped me kind of communicate that, because I had a heck of a time communicating my experience until I talked to them. They go, "Oh, we understand." And so
ah,
they helped me so I could communicate better, because I used to go, "Well, it's like, and I didn't have the language to describe what was happening to me." And oh, we understand that one. So that was kind of cool. But the experience I mostly talked about was the one that happened, that changed me, that made me born again. And that happened in 1989. But
mm.
I want to back up. A lot of bad things had happened to me as a child. There's a Utah-based religion I'd gone to. I was almost murdered in that church as a
Oh,
child.
wow.
Yeah, and I was preserved. Some guy tried to take a knife to my throat. Didn't do nothing. It didn't do nothing, surprisingly. A few other really horrible issues. Okay, in that.
Why
So
did he try to do that? Like, what
I
was?
don't know. He was running through. I was about 8 years old at this time, and I don't know what the heck the deal was. He ran through. It was like either a older teenager or a young adult, because when you're a child, all teenagers look adult to you.
Mm.
Okay, so I would say, looking back, it's probably an older teenager, and he just grabbed me. Someone was after him. He grabbed me like a hostage, and only for
Oh,
a moment. And he took a knife, and he had that scared scared me. I really didn't. It was happening so quick, I didn't understand exactly what was happening. And he took me, he held me, and held the other people were held back. And he took, and he actually his blade went from all the way across under my beard, of course. If I didn't have beard then, but anyway, and nothing, and it didn't work. And he got scared and he bailed, and they went after him.
wow.
So, and luckily, my mom was actually teaching us. I can't remember if this was a Wednesday service or a Sunday service. I think it was a Wednesday. I can't remember. But anyway, she was teaching like a Wednesday class or a Sunday school. I can't remember. I was just a little kid. I can't remember with clarity on that. But I just bolted in there in the room, and I remember how her eyes, like she knew I'd been through something. But
Mm.
there was other issues like catching when I was a teenager. Oh, I guess I can't say that. I say this, I forgive everybody. I don't have any issues with this now. I just don't have appreciation for what happened. And later, as a teenager, I caught this guy trying to molest my brother, a 4-year-old brother, in a bathroom. And
Wow.
I stopped it. I chased him through the building. And of course, I was pissed off, right? I grabbed him, and I had him in the foyer, and I was choking him out. What made me mad was when another service had gotten out, because multiple wards used the same church. I got in trouble for trying to kill him, but I don't think anything even happened to him.
Wow.
I got jumped for being on top of him, but he had problems, and he tried to molest my brother and stuff like that. And there's quite a few other issues. But so I kind of didn't like certain church. I didn't like churches. I wasn't really super close to God, when I was younger. I mean, there's moments I had churchiness in my life, when I went to church. Oh, I liked it, and then I didn't care for it after. Had my little moments like that. But later, as a teenager, because I had these gifts, and I felt powerless, and I was angry all the time. I got heavily involved in the occult.
Okay.
And I mean, the heavy. I have had so many dark experiences. I understand. I've had experiences which I think a lot of people that go into the dark, the cults and things like that, and covens and things like that, they are looking for experiences that I've had that they'll never have. I have had some profound. So that's why I refer to my ST NDE as my wide experience, because I had so many dark experiences where I used to conjure things. There's a lot of things I don't talk about a whole lot because it seems to attract it. So I don't talk about it a lot, but I do talk about the light and how I'm serving on the side of light. So, okay, just that's important because that is actually what helped build it up. So years later in 1989, I was at my lowest point in my life. And this was in Vancouver, Washington. And I just kind of had, and my dad was away at seeing my aunt in Seattle. So I had the apartment to myself. And I just had what I refer to as my Lieutenant Dan moment.
Ah.
And anybody seen Forrest Gump where Lieutenant Dan's having his one-on-one with God on top of the ship? And he's all mad.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, I had a moment way before the movie came out. But this was all day for me. I just call it my Lieutenant Dan moment because when I see that, I totally relate to that moment because I had that, and I just vented. I never blamed anybody or God or anything for all these things that happened and all the stupid things that happened in my life. But I remember all day back and forth, just going back and forth, ranting at God the whole day. I was like, "If you're a man, come on down." I was so angry. I was just spitting out venom, and I was just pissed. I was actually decompressing. Is what I didn't realize what I was doing, but I was decompressing. And then at the end of the day, I was, I went to my bedroom, and I was physically tired. I was emotionally wiped out, and I could still feel, because I still had some of my abilities before they got stronger. I could always sense the dark side, like groping around me. And I said, "Man, Lord, I didn't see them, but I felt them." And I says, "Lord, I know the bad guys are groping at me. I really need you," because I had started praying again. For years I didn't really pray. And I said, "I really need you. I need something to happen. I just need to know that you're." It was simple, okay. And I was probably actually, even though my psychological profile for the military says I can't be broken, I probably was on a verge of a nervous breakdown because I had so many things coming up. And I just wanted, honestly, this is so funny. I just wanted a book to fall over on the vanity, just something unusual, which is kind of funny to note today because all the paranormal stuff like that happened every day anyway. So
Yeah.
years later, it's kind of funny. And anyway, I was tired. So I laid down, and and uh and this experience happened, and a man's hand had grabbed it. So I was probably half awake, half asleep, and this was not a dream. I get asked that pretty often. No, because I'll tell you what happened. So someone shook me, and I thought it was my dad had come home. It was a pretty big man's hand, but it had to almost go through the bed I was laying on to do it. So it was on my left shoulder, and it was someone's left hand. And it shook me. It startled me at first. I looked up thinking it was my dad, and no one was there. And I thought, oh, dude, I wanted something so bad to happen. I imagined that. And then I thought, oh, it's my blankets folding in on me. That's what it is. I dismissed it. So I started going back to sleep, trying to go back to sleep again. And it happened again. And this time, this wonderful Nito experience, it's hard to explain. This fire, I saw this fire burn through me. It wasn't painful or anything. This whitish fire, mostly white. Like I must think it might have been a purifying fire. And I saw it happen as I was laying in bed. I somehow saw this through the wall from the next bedroom, like seeing it through someone else's eyes. And I was talking to someone about that, and they said, "Oh, that's multi-dimensional viewing." There's a lot of experiences, like we'll see like their car accident, or if they fall out of a parachute doesn't open, they'll see themselves falling from 5 different directions. But I had the two, and I didn't know anything about near-death experiences or anything at that time at all. I didn't know what was going on. So what is going on? It didn't hurt me, but it felt cleansing. So I think it was a fire of judgment or a cleansing something. I can't, baptism of fire perhaps. When I was baptized, there was I was baptized originally LDS, and my mom said something about when I was receiving a blessing that part of the baptism would be reserved for a different date or something to that fact. I just remember that as a child, and when I told her after this experience happened, she kind of brought that up to me. So I do not know what that was. Okay, and after that happened, it was like I was like either pulled out or like almost like a mat tractor. A tunnel opened up like in the room, and I just kind of came out of my body. I don't remember hearing a pop or feeling, because I've had that moments where you pop phased. I've had that before. But I just went into this tunnel, and the funniest thing was, it reminded me of those terror tunnels you have at the amusement parks. You know how they spin around. You take the little cart, and it's like they were spinning. It really reminded me of that in some ways. You know, I mean, it wasn't, but it kind of had this. It was kind of darker. It was kind of a bluish color. You know, it had about the same colors, and you almost wanted to put your hands along the walls. You know, it's just almost. It was small enough. I could almost do that. I just, since I didn't know what I was doing, I was just going through this tunnel, and it was kind of a lot like Stargate, way before Stargate shows came out. And I kind of went through it. It was kind of spacey, and it kind of curved a little bit, and then I went up to this. Popped out, and there's this white veil, this white, super white sheet of light, and it had sparkles in it. You know, like I always talk about how the glitter you glue stuff on as a child, you know, that kind of thing. And if you just imagine in a super bright white light or arc world light, throwing this glitter stuff in it, this light was super bright, and I would not be able to take this naturally. You know, I don't care. I have blue eyes. I see good at the night, but really super light sensitive. So I don't really like bright light. But it's healing, I can totally take it. And I don't know. This part's confusing. It's probably one of the most confusing parts of my experience, because I think this was a representation of me actually being out of the body, because I stood before it was like a veil, and then I started moving towards it, and I was going through it, and I knew I had an understanding if my physical body had been exposed to this light, it would have incinerated. So it was like I was being incinerated as I walked through that. And I always used the analogy of like for Terminator, I think it was Terminator 2, where the Linda Hamilton's hanging onto a fence and a nuke goes off, she's kind of dissolved, you know. It was kind of like that in a sense. And my eyes and my skull were the last thing to dissolve. I don't know if that had meaning, but I remember doing that. It didn't feel painful, but I knew at that point for sure I was separated from the body. And then I think that part I crossed into the spirit world. And now this part's hard to explain because a lot happened really quick. So I kind of popped out of the side. I was in this place that was kind of misty. Like the way I describe it was like being inside of a cloud with lightning strike and just pause that light, you know, kind of misty. You hear like wind chimes, kind of like a beautiful, like a sacred, beautiful music, but it's like wind chimes, I remember. And it smelled really good. It's like spring day, and the wind was warm, and it was so bright. And like, love is light. And it was loving, it was glory. It was glory. It was love is light. Light, yeah. Physically, light is solid in a sense. It was like misty. Love is light. Light is love. It's insane. And when I crossed over, a lot of things happened. I knew it was familiar. It's like I'd been there before. I was like, I've been here before. I kept thinking, I've been here before. And I was trying to think. I did not get any recall. I was really trying hard. It's so familiar. So I kind of stood there, did not know what was going on. Okay. And then and I was somehow able to discern. It's so hard to explain this part. It was so misty. I could see figures moving in the background of people in white robes. You concentrate, you kind of see them. So I saw men and women in white robes, at different altitudes, talking and being together. Everybody was beautiful, by the way. When you're a being of light, and you're just, and your love shines, it's just, I don't care what you really look like on earth, you look beautiful over there. Okay. And you just shine through, and it's, wow, what's going on? And then I started thinking, I felt detached from the earth. Right, it's like something's wrong here. I don't have my anger and my emotions and my concern. Not be concerned about the earth type of thing, you know. And I had this dumbest thought. I do share this a lot. It was really funny at the time. It's the dumbest thing anybody could ask. It's like, wow, what would happen if a nuclear device went off in my neighborhood? Because I was concerned that I didn't feel any attachment to anything. I thought that shouldn't be, for some reason. And this voice boomed inside me, and you don't need to worry about that. And I was so happy, dude, you know. And anyway, I'm totally cool, because this was awesome. I didn't know what the heck was going on. I was just kind of standing there, it's like, wow, taking all this beauty. It was just like, it literally was in a big space. It was like being inside a cloud, super bright white light. It was so healing. It just was healing. And the love, I've never felt anything like that before. It was tangible. It was like a warm spring breeze, smelled great over there. But you want to stand in there, and all of a sudden people and animals started, I think I was in the receiving area, and were streaking by me, dude. They were moving like lightning bolts around me. Like they look like sparklers. When you take a sparkler glow like that, that's what they look like, the orange glow. And they go right around me. There's the man, old lady, there's a child, some animal, horse, and that was pretty close to me. And I always say cat, dog, rat, frog, you know, just being funny, because all these animals are people coming in, and I was like, I'm gonna get hit. And I thought I was gonna get hit because they really like were bullets. They're just, but you're able, as fast as they move, you're able to discern and see exactly what they were. And it's funny, people like the people were coming in almost like a fetal position. Like
Mm.
man, and it's just like they're almost like in a fetal position. And I don't know if that means anything, but that's how they were coming back. And so as soon as I got concerned, it stopped. And so I'm not exactly sure if I was standing there for a while before I started moving, or if I had been moving and didn't feel the inertia because I didn't feel like billows of clouds or mist going by me. But I was taking it in and watching the people, and they seemed busy. They seemed very joyful. Everything was in balance. Men and women working together. There wasn't no lot like a not like there wasn't like a sexuality was wrong. Everything was in harmony and exactly in balance. No one was in front of each other. The man wasn't in front of the woman. The woman's front of everything was side by side. If there was a man and woman, they're totally on together, like in balance. And everybody's they seem busy. They had things to do. They're joyful as they went about whatever they were doing. Some looked like that clipboards. Like, I don't know if they're checking on things or inspection. I have no idea, but it was just really neat. And I just was so impressed how beautiful everybody was. And there wasn't like, don't look at her. Don't look at her. That's my girlfriend. It was nothing like that. Because everybody was beautiful. I mean, you weren't taking it in the wrong way. And honestly, this experience changed my attitude about relationships and people completely.
Mm.
I came back and I could definitely appreciate beautiful women, but I don't think of them like I did when I was like a teenager and a young person. I don't, I see more of the divinity in people and the potential in people. So it really changed a lot. I still appreciate beauty, by the way. I still like that kind of stuff, but not in the same way that I had when I was a young person. It totally changed all that for me. So anyway, I guess I started moving and I went into another tunnel and I knew I was ascending. So this was a cool trip because I got to see almost more like the galaxy in this space, and you are just moving at warp speed. It's just like you can see the tunnel. It's very similar to Stargate in some ways, but it also was like I described it like Gandalf's near-death experience in Lord of the Rings 2, because when it kind of planed out, then went back together, and then I don't know where it was, but it was going really high. I went really far. I don't know where this was I was going, but I was ascending. I know that much. And I think that purifying fire was a cleansing fire so I could go where the Lord was, because that's where I went. So I was getting close. I didn't know what was going on. Honestly, I was just like, well, what's happening? And anyway, I go through something, and my spirit ability started getting even stronger. I started seeing like 1,000 miles out. It's like I could see this being at the end of the tunnel. There was light more, so it made the tunnel look. It wasn't really dark, but it made it look darker
Mm.
compared to the being in the light that was in the tunnel. So he has arms out like the Christus, or to receive you, and you can see that. And as I'm getting closer to him, it's like I know him. I started remembering that I knew him. Okay, because I believe in a pre-existence. Okay, I don't really know anything about the reincarnation part. I didn't have that in my experience, so I don't dismiss it, but I'm not really sure, but I do believe, we came from there first. Okay. And there's reasons for that. But anyway, and like, I know him. And I started getting excited like a little child, like, at Christmas time, because that's that vibe. I hope this isn't a broken record for some people, but the feeling I had was really cool, because it was like, imagine yourself as a 3 or 4 year old child, and you're coming down the stairs and you're catching Santa putting the gifts under the tree. How excited you would be as a child. Right? That's what I was kind of feeling about the Lord. It's like, I know him. I know him. And I remember talking to, other than my aunt, Dr. George Ritchie, who wrote Return from Tomorrow. He was the first near-death experiencer I met. And it was really cool to me. I went to a symposium here in Salt Lake, and we were talking about this. And he says, when you meet the Lord, something inside you stands at attention. He died in an army hospital when he had his
Oh wow.
and that's kind of what's happening. But it was so cool, dude. Man, I wish everybody could have this experience. I'm getting close to him, and I pop out of the tunnel, and I'm believing I should have mowed him over as fast as I go. I was moving like a missile. And anyway, and also I just kind of stop a few feet from him, like the inertial damper just. But the thing is, I couldn't see him exactly clear. I could see him silhouette, but the Shekinah, I think it was Shekinah glory, the glory of God, lightning fire, just roaring. It was cool. I wasn't getting fried or burned, but it was like lightning, but it was fire. It wasn't like, they call it earthly fire would be like solid and dirty, like asphalt. It'd be just really impure, but this was absolutely pure white, it was just cool. And it's hard to describe the depth of things because there's no darkness or turning the shadow. There's a lot of stuff I found in the Bible, which is so dead on what I saw over there. And I didn't know the Bible at all. So for me, the Bible is like, whoa, that's right. Oh my gosh, that's right. Oh my gosh, that's what I saw. It's crazy. It was crazy like that. And you could feel him just a few feet from me. And I'm slowing this down because a lot happened. And I described this as like, imagine being sprayed by a hose and trying to explain every little drop that's going to pelt you. You know, there's so much happening at once here. And you could feel his love on you and his gaze. And you could feel, even though I couldn't see him smiling, I could feel it. He was smiling, man. And so, but the Shekinah, what is this? You know, this is cool. And then you feel this healing left in waves, just view. There's like things like coming off me. It's almost like shackles or emotional layers. I guess I still had somehow. It was just healing. I felt getting lighter and lighter, and healing, and just wow, this is awesome. Like you never felt anything like this, really. And so anyway, I'm like kind of looking through the fire, you know, and he embraced me. He just kind of took me in and embraced me, like he held me like a child, like a baby. That's how much love he had for me, and you can feel that he was taking joy to be with me. You know, I mean, everybody's happy to meet Jesus, kind of a thing, but he was like super joyful that I was there with him. It felt like he took his universal remote and paused the universe so just he and I could have a moment together. That's exactly it felt like. It really, it really,
no, that's cool. Yeah.
yeah, it's cool, man. It was cool, and it was unbelievable to me that there's a being like this that existed. You know, and so he just held me and hugged me for a minute. And the thing, but I will say this, and some people disagree theologically. Um, I didn't know anything about theology. I didn't have it. I didn't really care a whole lot about God or stuff until this moment. Okay. And so I was hugging him, and I don't know where this came from, but I knew I was a spirit, right? But I knew I was touching a resurrected being. He was not the same. He was not ghost Jesus or spirit. He was actually solid. But I didn't actually get the sense they had blood in him anymore. It was something else, but I can't conclusively say on that. But I'm like, I'm hugging him, and he was a pretty big dude, and he was built, he was stocky, you know, he was strong. That makes sense for being a carpenter, holding stones around all the time.
Oh.
Yeah, I thought you know, but he was like, you didn't have to worry about him. He just loved you. I mean, he did everything for you. It was just amazing. But let me tell you, you felt his power and authority, and you knew he was really in charge of things. And he had all wisdom and everything. He knew everything about everybody, and he had wisdom. And it really impressed upon me. I'm going to listen to this guy from here on out, because he knew what was best for me, kind of a thing. He had my best interest, type of thing. Changed me, but it was amazing. Like, oh my gosh, this is Jesus. This is Jesus, God the Son. Oh my gosh. And you felt it, but he didn't browbeat you. It was all loving and everything. And so anyway, I let go. I let go. I'm trying to look at it, and it's still hard to see, but he's still feeling smiling. And he started backing down. So eventually he started backing down the fire. And then I got to see that he had like white hair. But I got to say, at first, the white hair, I thought it was a reflection from the lightning fire being really white, you know. And there's a scripture where it talks about he has white hair, and it's in Revelations, right? And I found that later, and everything in Revelations I happened to see it talked about like his head was like a sun. And then as he toned things down, that's what I saw, like the white hair. And then it changed into a reddish brown eventually. I saw like eyes of fire, which kind of wasn't really scary, but it kind of took you back a little bit because it showed his power and discernment. You felt him scanning you, discerning, but he did everything in love. But you felt like, oh my gosh, this guy's in charge. And he knows everything. I mean, everything about everybody. I mean, it was amazing. And he just loved everybody, right? And so he turned it down, and I just saw a lot what was described in Revelations: the white hair, the eternal burnings or Shekinah glory, the had like a sense, like I was so astonished to find that. It's like, oh my gosh, that's what I saw. That's exactly what I saw, and a few other things. So we kind of communicated for a while, but I was just so overwhelmed by the love and the healing that I was loved like that, because I always had rejection issues, and I think that's why I had this big experience. I needed this experience. Because I was going to go dark side. I didn't, because I had thought about suicide a few times, but I knew about the dark side, and I did not want to be a part of that. I knew what would happen with that because I had way too many experiences with those. So anyway, after this part, he took me to another room, and everything's white. It's hard to explain this. Everything's just say another white room, but I always felt like I was ascending. Okay, and this is when we could communicate. And I hate when I say communicating. Some people say it's telepathy, but for me, it was more than that. It was like talking in four directions, above and below and within. you saw it from all the directions, and it's almost like chakras, like your spiritual mind, your physical mind, your emotional mind. It had all these different aspects of that's us, right? And we're communicating, and he mostly did not move his mouth. He didn't move his mouth except for one part down the road, which is really funny, by the way. So I'm going, well, where have you been? I felt like I could take my space with him. I didn't feel like, I was going to be disrespectful or anything. He says, well, I've always been here, and I was like, kind of don't really, I kind of don't agree with that. Because I really needed him a few times, and he says, no, let me show you. And this is, I do share this every time. Because it taught me lessons about myself. And he says, well, no, I've always been here, but you distanced yourself from me. And then he would show me what I would do. And it's kind of, boy, he made a big point. And so, okay, the way I describe this is like, those lines in your Walmart parking spaces, how they're kind of about 8 feet apart or 7 feet apart. Just now imagine, now it wasn't Walmart, but it was like these spaces. I was in this big white area, but imagine like an empty parking lot at Walmart, and you have those little lines you park between. And every time he mentioned like unforgiveness, anger, revenge, if I did something sinful, would be considered sinful, mean acts, gossip, I'd pop back this like a line. He's like pop, 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 pop. So I was like 250 feet away from him. I knew he wasn't even halfway through the list, right? And you don't realize how many bad things you really do. Now everything was done in love, okay, but he needed to change me. Some people ask me if this is a past life review. Go, no, this is a character correction. And I would liken this moment, and I'll tell you here in a minute, to like remember the adulterer in the Bible where they're going to stone her, and he goes to the people and says he was without sin, cast the first stone, and they didn't. And then he goes to the lady and says, is anybody here to condemn you? And she goes, no, Lord, neither do I condemn you. But he gave her ownership to change her life. Neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more. And it was kind of a moment like that. So here I had distanced myself from the Lord, and he brought me back to him. And he says, I know you're a product of your, I know you didn't realize this, but you're a product of your experiences. But now you know. And he says, now you are accountable. And he pointed to me. So he wanted me to change my life. And he did this, he did the same thing with the adulterer lady, right? I did, of course, a lot of bad things that I didn't even mention. But anyway, it was like that. So it's like a character correction, course correction. And you believed he wanted the best for you. I mean, you wanted me to be like him. He's our exemplar. He wanted me to be forgiving and loving. And believe me, it's not that easy. Believe me, especially coming back to Earthside and after a while for me, I get earthy again a little bit, but it changed everything. But yeah, I believed him, and you felt kind of shame because when you started getting distance from the Lord, that really hurts your heart. Let me tell you, because all you want to do is be close to him. He's like a magnet, and you just want to hug him the whole time because you just want his love. And it's insane. It's just insane. So that was kind of hurtful, but I needed that, And then we went to another room. I don't know what this is. It feels like we're ascending, and we were communicating. And I know we were talking more than I'm allowed to remember in some of my experience. And I know more things happened to me than I'm allowed to remember. And things pop in every few years after some trials and things I understand I'm ready for and stuff. But we're communicating, and that's when I finally noticed the prints in his hands, and he had them in his wrists too, which shocked me. And I saw them in his feet. Now I didn't see the crown marks, I didn't see the spear or anything, but I had been so just amazed by him. I hadn't even noticed that before, but maybe it wasn't time yet. Okay. And it just, oh my gosh, they're huge, dude. They were like railroad spikes. They weren't like nails, and they looked, and maybe they possibly were squared. Maybe, I'm not sure, like a spike. And I was like, wow, he had them in his wrist. Now, years later, I found out he did have them in his wrist, but I didn't know that at the time. And it amazed me. And they're big, and you could tell he really suffered. Oh my goodness! And he just let me see it. And I went down to my knees, and it really upset me. I almost started crying. Especially he gave me a flash of the crucifixion. And that still gets me to this moment right now, because for only a second I got to feel the weight of the world. Really shocked me. I couldn't even talk. So anyway, excuse me. But anyway, that moment really changed me. That particular moment, because wow, the resurrection happened. He really did go to the cross. He did it for all of us. If I was the only one in existence, it would have been me, But I gotta tell you, feeling what he felt just for a second changed me. So anyway, anyway, I came back and certainly want to change my life. For me, the crucifix became really important. You know, as having been LDS, we had a CTR ring. That means choose the right. You know, I kind of threw that out. Just said that.
What's that? Choose.
A CTR ring is something you get when you're a child in the LDS church. I replaced it with that crucifix.
Oh.
And I just kind of, well, okay. And I used to say, okay, doesn't choose the right for me, it corrupts the righteous. So anyway, I just traded it in, you know. And because when I had crucifix on, I behaved better. It was just a really good reminder and stuff like that. And so it just changed me, you know.
Yeah, no, I
it made me deeper religious. I had an interest in all these different religions coming back. And then after this, the Lord took me to this place. And this is hard to explain. At first, I really didn't understand how we were moving and stuff like that. We just kind of moved at speed. I thought most of the time, like, how do we get here? It was kind of like that. I did not understand a lot of things. They certainly didn't take time to explain things to me either. It's just like, I'm just along for the trip, kind of thing. But I went to this place, and this is where things really started rolling, you know. So I think he had to break down some barriers for me. And it was really important because I've been witnessing for the Lord ever since that moment I shared with you. And anyway, we went to this really cool place. I went higher. It was like looking into space type of thing. It was like maybe like a porch or pavilion. It's almost like when you go to the mountains, you have those big porches and you can look off to miles over mountains, like the top of the Alps or something like that. The Rockies. It was something, it made me think that, but it was space. And it was like I might have been like at a temple or something. It was like a building that looked like a Greek Parthenon type thing. And this lady, she came down. She kind of had an air of like a priestess type of. She wasn't, but it had an air of that. It had like an old, like a Greek, kind of like a Greek priestess clothes, or maybe like an oracle back in way back when. And she was pretty. To me, she looked like Angelina Jolie, but who also, I should say, looks like little Jen, who I met years later. She's one of the people I was shown from this experience I'd meet in the future. Looked a lot like her, or almost a doppelganger. I don't know who this person was. They didn't talk, but she came down. She seemed to have an air of importance. I don't know if she is an invisible scribe, recording. I have no idea who this person was. She was really pretty, and she felt like she's just very knowledgeable. And I didn't understand, but I kept thinking when she walked down that way with like bare arms, everybody had robes on, right? And I thought, well, that's kind of sexy for heaven, isn't it? It wasn't. But I was like, that seemed out of place there to me. Showing her bare arms, what the heck? It's kind of funny. And so that kind of dismissed it. So anyway, she joined us. So I had the Lord to my left. I'm in the middle, and then this lady. If the Lord wasn't there, I'd probably be checking her. Actually, when your spirit light is beaming through, everybody's mega beautiful. I mean, I wouldn't have been looking at her bad ways, but she was pretty. I mean, she was like, I love to look at beautiful women. My goodness, especially the spiritual, that light just, oh my goodness, shines. But when the Lord's there, you're just kind of focused on Him. So anyway, we kind of raised up. He took us into space. I have no idea why this person was there, who she was. I have no idea. But anyway, we went. He goes, look, and all these worlds popped in. I think they're exact duplicates of Earth. And they just went boom, 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 just popped in, kind of like what you see in Battlestar Galactica now, the new effects. This is way before we had cool effects, okay? The worlds were so big, they just overlap. It was like, it just filled the immensity of everything. So it's like, originally it would be like we're over in orbit around Earth. It was just so big. Now, I gotta say, it was so big, I didn't really notice the continents and stuff like that. They might have been just exact duplicates of Earth. I honestly can't say I noticed all that, but I think these were the spiritual levels, and they would look like Earth, And so he had me look, and I'm looking at the people, and you can zoom in on them. It's like your eyes can zoom in, and I could see that there's like tons. I mean, everybody on these different worlds had varying degrees of light and glory. I'll explain like the LDS would, but it was like there were spiritual attainment. So these were different levels, and you're at a different level of attainment, and you had different levels of light and knowledge and wisdom and stuff like that. And it was based on two things: opportunity and application to whatever spiritual light you had. So if I was speaking to a Christian, it'd be like, well, it'd be opportunity and obedience to the gospel is what I would say. That's how I would talk to a Christian. To another person, I might say, according to spiritual principles or the light that you had in whatever path you followed. So it's how you applied it. So there's a lot of people they had more light and knowledge and glory than other people, but they were all serving. There was no attitude like, well, we did better, we applied ourselves, we were more obedient, so we're better than you. There was nothing like that. It was just understood that's what happened in life. and everybody's going to serve each other. So if you didn't have the opportunity, you were you were learning and progressing. Okay, you had other people helping you that were higher than you as far as attainment. It's like having a 12th grader helping a 6th grader, kind of something like that. Help being your teacher aid kind of thing. It's kind of like that. Everybody was servants, so you're helping other people on these different levels to progress. And it was all about service. And still, again, everybody was pretty, and most of the people, and it was just so many of them. This is why I always had a little bit of issue about reincarnation a little bit, because it seemed like I thought I saw pretty much everybody. It was like seeing all the people living on the earth, have lived and will live. It was like so many of them, but I hadn't understand they're all post-mortal, and they were from this particular world. Okay, we know that we have brothers and sisters at the Star Nations, but it was from this world. It just, oh my goodness. So anyway, there's a part I want to share where I'm supposed to be looking right at the worlds, but I'm so enamored with the Lord. He's so cool. It's like, yeah, Jesus, that is really neato and really cool and stuff. But I just kept looking back I could not help myself. I was kind of disobedient. I just kept looking back. It's like, yeah, that's cool, dude. You were way the heck cooler, kind of a thing. I couldn't help myself. You just can't. You love him because of what he did for you, and I've never been loved like that, But I want to say also, I felt the love of the Father. So, and I believe in the Christian version of things, but I don't take anything that's plain and precious to other people, and I'll tell you why. It's explained in my experience. Anyway, but I just kept looking at him. He goes, "Look," this is when he actually talked. Like, he was getting a little flustered with me a little bit. Like, it's important, man. Look, it's like, look, okay, I'm looking. And then I would see the worlds, they turn clear like glass or a crystal. And I was like, oh my gosh. And okay, I already could see through the worlds because of my ability. I could see all these people through all these different worlds around me. And all of a sudden, it's kind of crazy. Everybody stopped all at the same time, and they all pointed at me, whether on the other side of the worlds or wherever they were at, and they used my middle name, which is John. And whenever the Lord talks to me, he uses John, by the way. And they pointed me and they said, John, we love you. And this wave, I didn't feel it, but this next to the feeling of Father in heaven and Jesus, it was the strongest love I had ever felt, because it felt like it was tangible. You felt it. I always describe it kind of like when the Death Star blew up, that little wave that shoots out or something like that. That's kind of how I kind of imagine it in my mind, a little bit. But you didn't see it, you just felt it, dude. And it dropped, I went down to my knees, and it's like, wow, it touched me. I'd never felt anything like that. And about being up there, I had the dumbest thought, and I do share this in my other videos sometimes. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know why this was happening, but they made me feel so good. I felt more famous than President Reagan, Pope John Paul II, and Marilyn Monroe. That's exactly what I thought. I don't know why that popped in there. It's just like, who am I? It made me think, who am I? How do they know me? Years later, I find out the people recognize each other's energy and stuff like that. But I did not know this. It was like this was like my awakening, my born again moment type of thing. And then I will get after this, I got to explore the eternities a little bit, which was really cool. I got to tell you. So I was, and by now I started learning about the speed of thought type of thing, or they had me on a program tour. I'm not sure, but this is where a lot of things meeting the Lord changed me. Like I told you, I saw the Prince and things like that, but I was allowed to go explore things in the eternity. And I love space, and I consider that my connection to God the Father, because anything that has to do with astronomy or NASA or UFO or anything like that, that's my father-son project with Father. I love building like Saturn V rockets and Mercury and Gemini and space shuttle. That's just what I call my father-son project, because anything spacey I consider connected to my father, kind of thing. So anyway, I got to explore, and I went to this place. I was just I don't know how to explain this. I was kind of going up a ramp. I don't know where I was. Okay, still it was spacey, and there's a big building. I didn't pay attention to that. You're trying to take in so much, right? And these people had come out. It's like an interfaith conference almost. I don't know how to explain this to anybody, but these people were coming down, and they had it lived at different time periods on the earth, and they had been different religions. Okay. And I remember this first guy, I don't know who he was. All these guys were really cool. I've never been to 12 or 15 of them. I'm not really sure. But this guy was coming down, and I was just kind of walking up, looking at them. And as he walked by me, now they all had white robes, but this guy had like traditional Buddhist monk robes. Okay. He had a shaved head, and he had the bare arm type of thing almost. No, I don't. Yeah. Anyway, no, it wasn't Barrett. The other guy was. But anyway, he as he walked by, his clothes flooded to white. I mean, I'm sorry, from white to the colors,
Oh,
like Shaolin. Okay, Shaolin, and all he communicated to me was, in life I had been a Buddhist priest or a Shaolin priest.
mm.
And there's a lot of them, and I was like, because I'm trying to look at all these different people culture, and I didn't really understand a lot of this stuff at this time. Okay, I hadn't been exposed to anything like that before, and then I remember seeing a guy had been a Sikh. He had the really tall, and he had that little turban thing on his head, and he felt like he just had the warrior vibe. I met someone who had been now there's a Muslims in there too, and I met a guy who had been a Catholic priest. He had like that, his colors flooded into like black with the little collar thing on. And there's this lady, she really stood out. She had been a Catholic man, but she had like ancient, like an old dress from like 150 years ago. I almost describe it as a LDS temple dress. It was like frizzly, in the old days. It was tight corset type of thing, and it's frizzly and had a little, I don't know what you call them, lace, frizzy stuff on it. It just looked out of place for her energy. She definitely was a nun, but she didn't dress. I guess she always wanted to dress nicer. Didn't want to wear the habit. I don't know, but they made it really strong. They made the biggest, strongest impression on me, on that, on me, because it's like, I knew they were there. I knew when they had passed away, and then Christians will disagree with me on this. I'm sorry. This is my experience. I don't know what to tell you, that if you don't accept Christ in this life, you won't be there. All I know is the Bible and a lot of things. It's just a pamphlet compared to what we really have over there. We don't know everything. We just know the basics: how to love and forgive and support and edify. That's our basic mission for everybody. I don't care where you are, what you are. Okay, but these guys have been righteous in whatever faith tradition they had, and lived according to the light principles they had in their faith. So they're basically Christ-like people. And so I knew when they crossed over, they accepted the Lord easily, that kind of a thing. But I will share, if there was a part when I was kind of exploring with the Lord, I will share where I had talked to the Lord. I go, why are there so many different religions? I really didn't care before this experience. And he just said, people are where they're supposed to be, kind of matter of factly. And just kind of like that. It wasn't super nice, wasn't super mean. Just people are where they're supposed to be. And I'm thinking, I don't know, I didn't understand, didn't know how to take that then. But being sent back earthside, when I started going to the different religions and stuff like that, seeing that lay member over here, or that imam there, or that Buddhist priest over here, and that deacon or priest or whatever, or minister, I saw exactly the right people in the right place at the right time. That kind of thing. It's like, wow, people really are where they're supposed to be. And there's a plan to our spiritual development, and you understood that from over there. So you can only have certain experiences in a certain religion or a certain part of the world. There's certain things you can only learn there, or maybe you're there for somebody else for their progression, or maybe you have to go to a certain organization that'll help you for your spiritual progression. You kind of had this kind of understanding there. So that was cool. And I came back and I got interested in all the different religions. Of course, I went Christian first because I had this Jesus experience, and I don't believe that. I believe in the Christian path, but I love my brothers and sisters from other faiths, and I've met the most wonderful Muslims and Buddhists and other people, Sikhs and stuff like that. And they just, even though I don't necessarily agree with everything they really believe in it necessarily, but I love how they love each other and support each other and stuff like that. And I met some hateful people all across the board, but I dismiss that. For the majority of them are really good people, and I appreciate that they're struggling to live right according to their tenets, and they try to serve one another. That's what it's about. Those are the real big important things, for me. Kind of, and tolerance does not mean acceptance. There's a lot of things in some of the groups and things out there I tolerate it, but I don't accept it. But I still love you anyway, kind of thing. That's not for me. I can't really support you in that, but I will still love you. I will not try. I have to judge for certain things for me. Am I going to be a part of that, or can I support that, or whatever? But nonetheless, I will still love you, kind of a thing, and then do my walk, do my own,
Yeah. Absolutely. Let me ask you this. I know you didn't want to really talk about it because, like you said, you felt like when you talk about it, it calls in the energy. But, even like I was reading something about you, and it said it's almost like it was left out, right? Like in your bio, it was like, have you assisted in like something similar to what exorcisms or stuff
Yeah,
like that? Is that
I
so? So,
absolutely sure have.
so do you still do that or?
As needed, as
Okay.
needed. It's not like I don't do. I'm not an exorcist in that way,
Hmm.
but I have been called to do house cleansings. I have been in places where I've had to help in deliverance ministry, and that goes back to me being in a cult when I was younger, because I had demon experiences. Believe me, in fact, I almost died when I tried to get out of the cult. I was attacked and had bruises on me that I used. Jesus saved me, apparently, or somebody did. I thought I was going to die that night. You know, that was the night I got out. And these, I don't care what people, oh, there's no evil, there's no, well, I totally disagree. There's opposition in all things. You have good and dark and light and, you know, dark and bad and good and evil and all that. Anyway, there's opposition to everything. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but the night I tried to get out, this was actually, I was a teenager. I did have a spiritual experience before this. And this is kind of hard to explain. Most people might not accept it. I don't really talk about this. I knew I needed to get out because I used to pray the devil. I used to have manifestations. I had super preternatural knowledge, especially at school. I'd frighten people at work, at school, and because I would start talking about things they thought they shared in confidence to their friends.
Mm.
And all of a sudden, their friend they start suspecting their friends, and then the contention begins. How do you know that? I never said that. Only so and so and so and so knows about that. I know about it. You know, I knew things about people. I knew things. I felt, I knew that I've been possessed at certain times. And also, I gotta say, I kind of liked it because I felt powerful and you felt very intelligent. And you could think of the meanest things to do. My mom used to say I would have been the perfect SS officer because I was so cold and calculating, and I could cut down people with my tongue at that time. But now I use everything totally reversed. I try to uplift and encourage and edify, you know, bless everybody, blessing, cursing, life and death is in the power of the tongue, right? So I practice that in a good way, right? So yeah, so I was involved. It made me very mad when I got attacked, because what happened after I kind of tried to cast this thing out, I guess it worked because I came from, you have to understand, the only perspective from church I had at that time was an LDS perspective. And I didn't know what I was doing exactly, but I apparently found out later I did it right according to their beliefs. So anyway, this was in November of '83. 16 years old, and I was on my bed, and I did have actually a good experience too. That's not related to this day, but anyway, I said I needed to get out of this situation. So I don't know why I did this, but in the LDS tradition, Aaronic or Melchizedek priesthood, you raise your arm to the square, okay? But I did this. I was actually sitting on my bed. I didn't even know how to do this. I just did it naturally, right, somehow. So I just kind of raised my arm to the square, and it says, "In the name of Jesus Christ, through the power of the Aaronic priesthood, I cast out whatever's in me." And I did it with authority. I said it firmly, and it did. It felt like I had smoke or steam or something leave me. You know, it was crazy. I didn't know what to think of that, because I didn't know what was really. I didn't understand a lot of stuff, because I had used to do blood rituals, pentagram rituals, conjurings, and I used to do all kinds of horrible, evil things. Okay, and but that night I went to bed, and this was scary, guys. It was spooky. My room, it's almost like the horror movies you see now, but this happened way before they started doing this in horror movies. I was like laying back in bed, and my room just became supernaturally black, dark. Now I lived in the mountains, in the Cascades, so we didn't have a lot of outside light coming in. But so my room was pretty dark, but it wasn't like being inside the cave of the earth dark. It was super black. It was like super cold. I got freezing in there, super freezing. It's almost like all the air got sucked out, and I did not understand what was going on. And I could hear this hissing and laughing like in the corner of my room, and you could feel these things that hated you. And that was the first time in my life ever that the hairs on my arm and my neck just I didn't know what's going on. I did not know, but you hear this hissing and laughing. It kind of makes me think there's a scene in the animated Lord of the Rings from 1978 where the ring race come into this pub motel thing to try to kill the hobbits. How evil and the vibe they had. It made me, that when I see that, it makes me think of this moment. And because these things had searing hatred for me, and they hated humans way more than we're capable of hating, just like how God and the angels can love us more than we were able to love each other and stuff. It was like on that scale. It was venomous hate. And I tried to get out of there. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't understand. I was going to get out of that room as fast as I can. And as soon as I got something grabbed my throat and threw me into my bed. And then I got pinned. I got pinned at the shoulders, elbows, wrists, my hip, my knees, and my ankles. It literally felt like I had a car on there. And you could hear it right in front of your face. It's almost like you feel hot breath on you, and they're laughing and they're hissing. And you feel the hate, and they're man, they are pissed off. They are pissed off, angry. And I thought, okay, I am gonna yell. I don't care how embarrassing. I was gonna scream, for my parents to show up, my mom to show up. And as soon as I did, it crunched my throat got grabbed, and at first I thought they crushed my larynx because I felt it go crunch. And then I couldn't breathe for anything. I couldn't even shake. I thought, if I can get out there and get out. I couldn't do that. I couldn't do it. And as they were touching me, it hurt. It felt like ever been touched dry ice.
Yeah.
It got burns and freeze. And it felt just like, it was kind of like almost like iron, but it felt like dry ice. It was very painful, and I had marks the next day, really bad ones. Anyway, so I tried to get out of that. So then I started trying to pray in my mind, and I got jammed. And it's like that seeing the mouth of hell open up, literally. I had this other experience one other time. I had this something similar to this way years later. Anyway, so I was trying to pray, and I saw like witches' heads and demon things, and oh gosh, I can't even describe all this stuff. And I thought I was going to die. I couldn't breathe. I felt like I had a car on top of me. These things hated me. They wanted me dead. I thought I was going to die. And I just remember getting one thing: God help me. And the next thing I know, I obviously survived. I got up in the morning. I must have passed out because I had no air. I was white. They drained me. They completely drained my energy. And so I got up. I was alive. I guess my throat was okay, but I swear to gosh, they crunched it. You felt it go, you felt it snap, like almost like taking a bunch of plastic forks and breaking them or something like that. It was like that. So either God healed. I don't know. I don't know about that part. But anyway, I got up. I was so sort of achy. My room, even though it was sunny in my room, surprisingly, it just felt different. The vibe was different. So I got up. I was like, oh man, I felt like someone beat you with a bat, And I was mashed in there pretty good. So I went and had to went to the bathroom to go have my morning shower. And took off my shirt and everything. Massive bruises, hand marks like around my throat, on my wrist, everything they touched me were massively bruised. I remember showing my mom. Years later, we talked about, you should have took a Polaroid because that, and after that, I was really careful. And I found out years later that in my brother's room, they would see like a pentagram and just in the middle of the room, like a light, like someone take chalk and like the middle and would draw like a pentagram in the room. We had weird stuff that would happen too, but I'm not sure, I think where I used to do my ritual, there had other people had done rituals in there because where I would pray the devil and I would have experience. I didn't even bring that up. There's always weird things. You always hear like organs playing in the forest. My brother and I called it the Doom Forest, and you'd always find something dead in there and it always smelled like death.
Wow.
Always. And that's where I did some of my stuff out there. But first time when I committed myself to the dark side, I did a blood pentagram ritual over a fairy ring. I didn't know what a fairy ring was. I guess that's about the worst place that you do because they're considered portals.
Oh, wow.
But now, because I had those dark, and that wasn't the only other dark experience I've had. I used to be able to sense. I used to get touched by them, and I'd see different things, and I'd almost kill people at that time. I get so angry, supernaturally angry. You'd want to kill people. I've had moments like that. And I remember one time, I've never shared this on all. By the way, this is exclusive to your thing. There's another. It's about 3 years later. I was struggling through. I wasn't being treated very good, and I remember walking down the hallway. I didn't see them, but I felt their presence. I go, I know you're here. I just acknowledge them, kind of like this. And as they touched me, those little white marks you get on when you touch your skin. They did that. You can see them. And when they touched me, it was almost like putting on amber glasses in your house, and then like the wavy lines you see off the mirage off the freeway. That wavy, watery looking thing. Mm-hmm. It felt really exhilarated. And I walked back in the room. So this was, I think it was fall of '86. And I was here in Salt Lake. The first time that was up in Washington. This was in Salt Lake. And I don't know, I had this power in me. And I got to tell you, I've never had more faith in my life. And I was angry as man. I just felt supercharged. I've never had more faith than this moment. It's dark faith, right? And I thought, well, you know what? If I wanted to blow out this wall and impress the neighbors, I could do it. I had no doubt if I just thought it happened. I could literally see like all the nations that are trying to come against me military wise, I could like wipe them out. If I want to take out I really had this feeling. I really believed it was so charging. And then this voice literally says, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And I felt annoyed by it. It's almost like a mosquito because compared to the power I felt like a god. It's like, that means nothing. I went like that. Don't bug me. That's insignificant. And then they showed me a battery. They showed me a battery on meltdown, like real fast, how corrosive it was. And that actually did something. But as this was happening, I was being shown a different thing. And in this experience and my white experience, where I really need to get to the most important of this white experience, I'll share a little bit, was the oceans and water was used. And so what happened I was shown, I think this was a vision from the devil, I think. At least I think it was. I was shown waters, went to the bottom, and went to the sands. And I didn't know that sand looked like glass at this time. And it was like just like one grain of sand, it's like divided in four quarters. I don't know why he did this, but it's just, and I had a quarter of one one grain compared to all the sands he had, right? That was my power. And I felt like nobody on earth could even do shit to me personally, you know. But when I was shown that battery meltdown, something inside of me got scared. It shook me up. And I think my adrenaline was going because I was really sick after this. And all of a sudden, when it happened, I went to my knees. I fell to my knees, and the whole room. It's almost like you see in the movies, the wind like blows shit around in your room. That's exactly what happened, and I was so wiped out. It took me out. I was almost like coming out off adrenaline. I was really sick after that. So I do with the dark side. I talked to my uncle after my near death experience in 89. I shared this with him. He says, "Oh, if you gave in, that would have been your soul." Yeah, that's how stupid I am. I didn't figure that out then or anything. But I was always targeted after that, you know. After I could, my ex-wife would probably tell you, when she's my fiance, some of the scary things we'd have. Like when I met her, I was guided to her, okay, and I knew that. Oh yeah, by that night, back in '83 when I was attacked, I had prayed about it by future honey, and a female voice said something special about her name. I always thought it would be Kathy because I liked all the girls named Kathy. All right, all Kathys are cool, but her name ended up being Hope. Her name was Hope. And so I had shared that. So we'd go down the street sometime, and this guy would come up and say, "Hey, the devil's trying to destroy you." Excuse me, excuse me. And then I don't know why I said that. I don't know why I said that. Another time, "Hey, Satan's trying to kill you." That happened like 2 weeks apart. And you talk to the guy, he had no idea he'd said anything, kind of thing. I said, "See, Hope, some of the stuff I'm telling you about, see, you know, that kind of thing." So those are the dark things. That's why I don't talk about it. You can see it's attracted, but I've been involved in house cleansing. I can at times recognize unclean spirits in people, you know, and you gotta be careful when you pray against it, because I've had them recognize me from, like, when I worked in Salt Lake City a few years ago. He was a homeless guy. He was a drunk. He just shaking. I was just praying against the spirit of pain and addiction and some other things, and he became really aware. He's probably 150 feet, 125 feet from me, and he's clear across the street, and he just came to life, and he started scanning around, and he saw me in a crowd, singled me out, came across the street, stormed to me, okay, and came. I thought he was going to pull a knife on me or something like that. And I just said, "In the name of Jesus Christ, I command you to stop." And he changed, and he looked bewildered. It was crazy. It was kind of weird. Everybody just stopped around us. It was weird. But I thought he was going to attack me. And I've had stuff like that. You know, other experiences when I had my secretary praying, we were praying for this lady above us, and she was probably the worst drug addict I knew. And we were praying. We were worried about her daughter. So she can't hear us. She can't see us, right? Praying for. So my secretary and I are on our knees, and we're praying for this lady above. And all of a sudden she starts pounding the floor, stomping the floor. "Stop praying for me. Stop praying for me." She's screaming at the top of her lungs. She can't see us or hear us. That's prayer natural knowledge. Those are just a few experiences, you know. But Lordy, there's been a lot of stuff, but it's not something I do all the time. And I do connect to a monthly webinar with an exorcist every month and stuff like that. And we do. I mean, not like against like the super possessed, but it's like for our families and stuff like that. So it's just something I feel called to do, you know.
Yeah. No, and like you said, see, I've experienced all those things, right? But I never was like, let me go to the dark side, right?
Yeah.
If anything, once, you know, when I was young and I was like, oh, you know, I'm supposed to fight the good fight, and, you know, whatever, I was studying the Bible and everything. I thought at one point I was supposed to learn, like, so I went to a bookstore and I was looking for the Satanic Bible, because I thought in my head, know thy enemy kind of thing, you know, like that kind of thing. But then I had the worst. It was like something punched me in my stomach when I grabbed it, and I was like, okay, I'm not supposed to. And there was this other book that it led me to, and I like my whole gut lit up like a Christmas tree. I was like, oh wow, okay, this. So it led me somewhere else. But it was funny that, like, you know, that was my I was like, am I supposed to learn this or whatever, you know? But yeah, I've experienced that. Like I woke up like next to this, and, you know, I don't like to share it either, because now I don't want them to think like, because for me to be there, then I must have not really been in the right place, because how was I able to connect? Like, I remember this woman that, you know, I had hooked up with, and I woke up next to her, and it's like it was a demon, right? And it looked real cozy with her, and I was frozen and I couldn't move, and I was like, like squinting my eyes, like, what is this? But later I found out why. Like, she did kind of, you know, it wasn't the best situation that I was in. So there was something attached, right? So even, you know, I seen it in the spirit world, I've seen it here. So I get all that. Just I just
Yeah,
wanted to put it out
thanks.
there. Yeah, yeah. So it's been and even that to where someone did something and then after it was like they just snapped out of it. Like they didn't remember nothing. Like what just happened? Like, you know, and it was just like, and no one but for me, I knew what had happened, but no one else, like they were like, what? Their friend stopped talking to them, that they were like their friend had known them for like 3 years, and then they said after that that they stopped talking to them because they acted like, oh, what just happened? Like we didn't, you know. I'll tell you about that story another time because I don't want to take. I know you still wanted to share about what was
Yeah.
it, that the other one that you were talking about?
Yeah,
The
my I wanted to, yeah, going back to my white, those are some of my dark experiences. That's
yeah,
why I
yeah,
call
yeah.
that time with Jesus my white experience, because it was light and it was white and it made me born again and it made me value life and everything. Because I gotta tell you, before I didn't care. I really didn't. If I didn't have a problem killing anybody or anything, I just didn't care. I just was hard hearted, you know. I didn't care. I had a lot of bad things happen. I was angry and it was just a state of being for me, you know.
Mm.
And but the Lord, of course, changed me, made me born again. But I'll share this part out of order because of time, just because I'm not 100% sure. And by the way, thank you for listening to that, because
Oh
it's
no, thank
hard.
you.
It's hard to talk to people with stuff like that because they look at you like you got three heads, and you can hardly find, other than maybe exorcists or priests or stuff like, you know, you've been studied with or whatever. You can't really talk freely with this because no one gets it. You know,
Yeah,
even religious people who are highly spiritual, they just, I don't know. You know,
yeah.
I'm not sure
No,
they do
no.
it.
Even that, I've been bitten by like a demon in my dream, and I woke up with pain. Like what the
Oh
like?
yeah, I've had
Yeah,
that.
like so I've experienced like all. Like,
Oh,
so
we should talk. We should talk. I've
yeah,
had that. I've had that. Actually, I've had a lot of weird,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know, shot. It feels like being shot by a nail gun and stuff. Weird things happen. Or
yeah,
hell, I've had way more experiences than I shared. Those are some big highlights, I guess.
yeah,
There's
yeah.
one part. Now, this is out of order. I just want to share it to everybody. The love of the Lord that was shown. Now, this is out of order. This is kind of way towards, kind of more to the end, but I don't think it's gonna, you know, it won't change anything in my experience. The one big thing I want to share with people is the love of the Lord. So anyway, towards the end of my experience, I will share, and I'll go back to whatever, how much time we have, and kind of go more chronologically. But there's a part where I was with the Lord, and he kind of sent me back to him, and we're communicating, and I kind of was ashamed before him a little bit, and I kind of was looking down, and he goes, "Well, what's the matter?" As if he didn't know, right? You know, here, you know, the grand infinite being. I'm just a little finite being, kind of a worm. I felt like, honestly, I gotta tell you, I felt like an amoeba or a worm before the Lord. He was so advanced, you know, so it just, man, it was immensely awesome. It just, a very fatherly, you know, kind of a thing. But anyway, so I'm talking, and I says, Lord, I said, I feel bad because I can't love you like you love me. And then he says, okay, let me show you something. And he showed me the earth. He showed me all the water. I literally saw every particle of water on the planet, in the clouds, in the streams, and the sinks, and the gutters, on bugs, everywhere, every lakes, the water, the lots of tons of water we have underneath the earth. Still, like great, we got like Great Lakes and maybe seas. And there's still a lot of water here. And he just showed me every particular water. That was amazing. And that represented his love for all of us.
Mm.
Okay. That was, I like to have the Catholics have the Ocean of Mercy type of thing for Divine Mercy Sunday and stuff like that. It's like, it's kind of like that, but it's just, and you know, the oceans are deep. We can't comprehend this, you know. It's like, oh my goodness. And then he showed like a cloud, like clouds over, like stormy clouds over kind of a raging sea, and he showed this one drop form and just going kind of, and that represented me at my very best currently. Okay. And
Mm.
I actually kind of thought, well, if that I was like John Paul II, that's how good I would have been. It's like one drop, you see it kind of go down, and there's a part in the Passion of the Christ, the raindrop, they see it boom hit by the cross. It kind of reminds me of this moment every time I watch that. You see this come down, someone's coming, it goes boom. You see the raging ocean, and just boom. And that was my love at my very best compared to his massive oceans of love and everywhere. I mean, my gosh, that's how much. And so he showed me that, and he says, "You're not capable of loving like that." And he pauses and stops. He points at me. And he goes, "Yet." And
Oh.
I'm thinking, there's just no way, infinite being, finite being. And I don't know how that could possibly be, you know. So to this day, it's like I'm trying. I'm pretty grumpy, You know, I might love you one day and not the next. It's
Ha
just
ha.
I try, I try it, or it's hard. It's hard to do that because sometimes you just don't want other people, being sent back. But it just blew me away. It's like I just don't know how. Even to this day, even though I try to walk the path of holiness, they'd have me walk, and I screw that up. I'm holy, all right. I'm full of holes. I am trying. That's all I can say. I'm striving. I am improving. I'm kind of a long ways where I was, but I still trip over myself a lot of the time.
Mm.
And we all have our little duality moments. So, that's why I call my nickname is Shade. Light today, dark tomorrow, because I'm kind of grumpy tomorrow. It's kind of like that. We have that, and being sent back, I get earthy after a little while, at least for me. But that moment was awesome, and that's why I've worked hard on trying to love people and forgiveness and letting go, which is not super easy for me to do when you have repeat offenders that people keep coming against you and messing things up for you on purpose, and there's no purpose for it. And the Native American says your greatest teacher is your enemy, so it's like the enemies that do that. Kind of like, well, I'm trying to love you, but you're really pissing me off at the same time, kind of a thing. It's hard. That's
Yeah.
kind of hard, but I want to tell everybody that was kind of an example what the Lord had showed me how to love, has love for us, and try to reflect that. Maybe he just wants us to pour our love on everybody else, whatever, because water is always used for life, right? But I
Absolutely.
wanted to share that. Thanks for letting me throw that in there out of order.
No, no, you're good.
I
Yeah, yeah.
felt that was
You
that
know,
was
I went through that like not too long ago, and it was it was an important lesson. Like, yeah, it's fine. Like there's the same how you said people that keep repeating those patterns, and it was okay. Like that was a huge lesson that it's okay to let people go. They don't have to be in your life, and you send them away with all the love, but you don't have to they don't have to be in your life. That's
yeah,
just what it is. And it's okay to have those boundaries, right? Like, hey, like, because that they've shown the repeating cycle. It doesn't end. They never surpass that, right? It's a repeating cycle, and it's just like, so then it becomes you. It's like, well, why do you keep allowing that? Like, why? It really has nothing to do with them. It's more about you because you keep
yeah,
allowing that. Yeah, yeah. So then that's what I was shown. I mean, it's not the first time I've been shown that, but it was just it was it happened to come back, right? It was just another lesson. But yeah, but go ahead. I don't want to
okay. No, hey
interrupt you.
man, thanks for sharing that. It's awesome to talk to people like they get that. It's because it's hard. Some things I found myself easy. It's easy to forgive. And as soon as you start thinking that, oh, the Lord decides, oh, you think it's easy, do you? All these little tests pop up for you.
Oh,
But,
absolutely.
but anyway, yeah, going back to my where I was exploring the eternities. This is before the ocean of love and everything. But anyway, I got to explore like space, right? Very cool experience, man. Thank you, Father, because this was awesome, man. So anyway, I was in space. I don't know if it was spiritual space or physical space. I was obviously a spirit. I wasn't in a vacuum or anything, but your sight can go off for like zillions of miles, right? So I saw a world looked like Jupiter, but more like Pandora from Avatar. Again, way before these movies were made. It was more purplish and gray, but it was big like Jupiter, and it was alive.
Mm.
And I saw these other planets. I don't know. These are just gas planets I saw. Really, I saw other planets in different solar system like that. Looked probably more like Uranus or Neptune or something like that. But I was astonished because these worlds were alive. They were sentient, and they were talking to God, which is kind of interesting. It's like, oh my gosh, the planets are alive. What? They have spirits like us, and they're smart like us. They're fully self-aware. They're sentient. It's almost like I don't know. It's like how you say Mother Earth. I don't know. I think planets have genders. I'm not really sure on that, but it just felt like maybe they did. Maybe they felt more male. These was, but I'm not really sure. I can't say. I was just astonished. They're talking to God, and some sounded weird. Some sound like whales talking. Some sound like wind chimes or crystal wind chimes. But I knew they were talking to God. I was not allowed to know what they were saying. It's a private conversation apparently.
Ah, ha, ha.
But I just knew that, and I say how I knew this was because after you're on the other side for a while, and you start your spirit either remembering or you're tuning into your environment. I call it connecting to God's Wi-Fi. You
Mm.
start knowing things or remembering or learning things as you are out there without someone specifically telling you. And we know that light is life, and light is intelligent, and it communicates. So maybe that's what was happening. But it was really cool because I was amazed to see how colorful space was. I mean, there's a lot. It's not just not black and just the stars and the planets. It's gotten the nebula. It's just really beautiful. There's lots of shades of color out there. It's really neat. And I was tuning into something. I think Betty J. Eady talks about the intelligences. At least this is how I take it. As a spirit, if I just like looking, I didn't really see it, but if I kind of focused a little bit, I saw these little things out there. And I think they're intelligence, they're the ones that respond to how we think, like good things or bad. It's like we use it for manifesting. Oh, I would like to have whatever for whatever. And they are the forces that were working for that. Or, oh, I got a headache. And they're the forces. Oh, yeah, you like a headache, will you? Well, we'll help you with that. Okay. It's that sounds like the intelligence. And they kind of look like lint or floaties to me. So it's like in your room, you can't really see the lint and dust floating around. But if you take a shaft of light from the curtains, you change it, you see all these little particles. It was a lot like that, or those floaties you see in the ocean all over. It was a lot like that, but they're there, but you just didn't see them unless you tuned in. And they felt kind of neutral, but I knew whatever they were, they responded to our thoughts and to our words. I don't know exactly. That's the only way I can describe them. Betty Eady talked about these. I think these are what she saw. I'm not 100% sure on that. And so that's that on that. There's some other things I got to explore. That was cool, I gotta tell you. And then I went to this place where they had I think it was a celestial city. I don't know how I got there. I just poof, I was there. I think this part was guided for me. And it was like you know what Vespers are, when like monks and nuns sing Vespers. Okay, anyway, there's this awesome celestial city a few miles away to my right, and there's like these bleachers that kind of look like the Vesper ones, like monks and stuff would have, but they went for like miles. And there's I honestly can't remember if this was a road that led to the city or if this was the waters of life, because we know that from God's throne, the waters of life, and there's a light shooting up from the city. So I think God has different thrones in different cities, because I know this wasn't the highest place. At least I don't believe it was. And there's like probably several 100,000, if not like 1,000,000 people singing. I guess you can say angels or just postmortals. I didn't see anybody with wings, just FYI. I didn't see a single soul with wings. And so I'm kind of looking down this way, and everybody's singing. I don't want to sing. I'm not a singer. And they're praising God because you're grateful. And by the way, you could trigger all that by your thankfulness. You could trigger everybody over there, because everybody's thankful for all the blessings and all the generosity God has provided for us over there. It's insane. So they're singing, but I had a moment. I guess I had ego still, so I'm like looking up, and I just want to be closer to God, kind of thing. It wasn't meant to be bad. So I was about 60% away. I wasn't not really in the middle, but 60% away. And I was just thinking, I think I should be up there. And I really just had the thought, I just want to be closer to the throne of God, because I felt that's where it was. And all of a sudden, because I felt like I deserved that. I don't know where that came from. Yeah, right. And everybody stops. Everybody stops singing for a second. It's kind of an embarrassing moment. It's like everybody kind of looks at me. It's like an ego moment. It's like, I'm sorry, man. I wasn't trying to be bad. I just kind of want to be closer to, and it's just how I felt the whole time. So that was another thing. There's a part where summoned back, and the Lord, he showed me I was allowed to see certain things, like in the future and things. I got to see the people I'd meet in the future, and I saw my future daughter. I mean, I have 3 sons, but I saw her as like a 3-year-old child. She's exact personality.
Wow.
Right. I think she's a medium or a crystal child. She came back, and her abilities are probably stronger than mine. I knew for years and years, kept talking when I was married. I said, we're having this daughter coming away, and I described her personality and everything, and she is just awesome.
That's amazing.
I haven't seen her for a long time, but it's awesome. And it was there's religious things and family belongings in that, but it's okay. Everything's going to be okay. And anyway, I was showing her, so that was really exciting. And then I was showing the people I meet in the future, which I did 6 and 7 years later. And we all had different, it was almost like the first Ions group type of thing. It's very similar to our spiritual seekers group and stuff, but it was way before. It was through like a recovery center and everything. And we call ourselves the clan, the circle of light, and everybody was super connected. They're the first group outside a few individuals I shared my experience with, but everybody felt like we had known each other for thousands of years. It was so amazing. It was better than any church. We used to do this on the weekend. It was like way better than any church. The love was there. We got so connected that if you're in our group, after a while, some of us could actually see the energy strings going between people. Not all the time, but you could like get glimpses of it. And I wasn't the only one. And that was neat. That was cool. I met one guy on the other side first, and he was on a different level. Because I met this place. It was kind of a lower place. 'Cause I was exploring, and you guys could all laugh. I was looking for aliens because
Ah,
I was a ufologist at the time, and I went to this place. There was some negative stuff. I won't go into that too much. I don't even know how to explain that very well. But it's kind of in this lower place, and I was over this, looked like a chasm, and it looked like it was huge, like the Grand Canyon, like in Arizona, but it was white, like you'd have like the Arctic sheets or Antarctic. It was kind of white, and it was kind of grayish white, and it had this aurora borealis as a veil between them. And there's this other guy in this other dimension, I guess that's how what it was. And you could hear this, couldn't understand what he's saying, and I still would think like a mortal, right? What? I can't understand what, and and I didn't know what this person was saying, but I recognized the energy. When you're on the other side, you recognize people by their energy. It's almost like when your departed mom come visit you might smell baked bread, or
mm.
dad visits you might smell cigarettes, and you have some signature energy or something. It was like that. And so I actually met him at this recovery place. It was either 6 years later or 7 years later, and he was walking out of I was walking out of the bathroom, he was walking in, and we saw each other for the first time in the flesh, and we immediately recognized. We went at the same time, "Hey, it's you." And then at the same time this happened, it was like a quickening, little lightning bolt zapped us. The only other time I had that was with Betty Edie, where there's a little, I call it quickening. It was a zzz, zzz. I don't know what that means, but it was like, "Hey, it's you." And we started talking. Like, we remembered our stuff. And then later we would talk to, because I ended up, years later after I got divorced, I lived at I rented a room from him in his house, and we had talked about things I thought were dreams, the things I always remembered and never shared with anybody. He talks about, "Yeah, I was there. I saw you creating and doing this, that." It's like, oh my goodness, you were there, for that. So a lot more happened in my experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool. Another part I was shown, the Lord took me to this garden, beautiful garden, and it was almost like a man-made little thing that looked natural. It wasn't really big, like a big river or anything. It was kind of like how you like decorate gardens. That could be a small little creek or brook, but it's kind of deep. And he says, "I want you to step inside of this." Okay, so I got in. It was the living waters. And I mean, living waters are living waters. It's hard to describe. This is one artist thing to describe. It really was intelligent, had life to it. It had a reflection of light that's not like normal water.
Mm.
The closest I can get is if you go to the mountains and you have ice cold snow melting. It has almost a glacier look to the water. There's a different kind
Mm.
of glaze to it. The only way I explain it, it's almost like jumping in 7 Up in some ways. And he had me dunk myself in it, almost like a baptism for some
Wow.
reason. And I don't know what the reason of this. And when I talked to Betty Eady, she says, "You're the only other person I've ever heard about that had experience." But I guess Betty G had talked about maybe Vinnie Tolman. I don't know him. I guess he's had an experience with the living waters. I haven't seen the story yet, so I don't know. So I
Mm.
guess he'd be the only person as far as hearing that I know of. But anyway, I don't know what it was. He just had me get in and get out. It had something to do with me coming back to Earth. For
No.
for what I don't know what it means or anything. um that's pretty much the bulk of my experience. Loving the loving part with the water was, the oceans were the most important. I think I wanted to share, but I will say, when it was time to come back to the earth, though, it's almost like when I met the Lord, he was like, he was here and his here, but it was like reversed for some reason. um it's hard to explain the rooms and stuff they have over there. A few more things happen, but they're pretty minor. So it's time for me to get ready to leave. And you sure don't want to leave him, by the way. That was really hard. And I should back up. There's a part, I had communicated in a different place, and it was talking about, I don't really share this too often because it kind of screws up this part, but it was talking about being sent back. And I gotta tell you, I was living in the river of denial. I
Mm.
was convinced I was not going to go back. I was not going back, because you do not, once you're there, you do not want to come back here. I was adamant. And some of the people, I didn't talk to a whole lot of other people, but I told them, "I'm finally happy. I'm finally dead. We're not dead here." They kind of were grumpy with me a little bit. "We're not dead. We're more alive." But they kept saying, when you go back, "I'm not going back. I'm not going back." It was kind of like that. But I was with the Lord. We were I don't know where we were, some private room or something. And we are talking about things to do on the earth. And because you love him so much and you have such confidence in your abilities while you're in the spirit world, that you are willing to take upon anything he asks you to do. And it says, well, I'll do this and I'll do this. I'll do more and do more. It says, oh, that's way too much for a lifetime. That's way too much. No, I love you, Lord. I want to prove it to you. I want to prove it. But when you're there, you have total confidence. Plus the Lord's right there. You have total confidence. But when you're sent back, boy, things really turn around, right? So yeah, he says, well, you've taken too much. So I don't know what really happened with that. My life really was pretty hard, pretty way oppressive, and lots of trials. More, I probably did take on more than I should have. Because I didn't change when I started changing, getting earthy and getting attitude again when I started coming back. After a while, I was really stoked when I first come back. But anyway, so we had that moment, and a few other things happened. I don't remember. It's not allowed in my memory banks. But anyway, now getting to the part where it's time for me to go. And I think it was going to a leaving room where I think people are actually born when they come down to earth, or the same place or something like that. So I was talking to the Lord. It says, okay, well, it's time for you to go back. You have important things to do. And I got got mad. I got mad at the Lord. I says, I'm not going back. I says, I took my hand like this. I says, I don't care if you send me to the lowest level of the T-Lester King. I'm not going back. And he just thought that was great. He just thought, he smiled. He took he had any beard for me. He took like this, started like this, and he enjoyed the moment. I started walking away from him. I didn't want to leave him because he's a person who's like you're the little kid and he's the dad. And let's just say like your dad's going to work and you run up and grab his leg, his little 3 or 4-year-old. Don't leave, Dad. We'll stay home for work. I'll stay home from kindergarten. We can make cookies together. You just want to stay with the dad. You're like that. You feel you don't want to leave him. And you feel like that. So I was kind of getting upset. And he just thought it was a joyful moment. He just had a great time. You never want to laugh at somebody who's really serious and mad, right? So I was walking away. I was probably about 15 feet away. And he goes, I'll tell you what. And he goes, if you go back, and this part is blanked out of my memory banks, okay? If you go back and blank, it was about that long. I don't know what he said, okay? Then you come back and live with me. And I remember doing the same thing. I didn't have a beard. I had my Marines, still had my high tie and everything on. And I go, yeah, I certainly want to come back and live with you. The next thing I know, I'm in a chute on the way to the earth. And there was this room we were by. It was like an egg. I don't know how he threw me in there. I don't know how I got in there. That part is out of my memory. But he had angels maybe escort me. Who knows? Maybe I tried to run away. I don't know. But anyway, there's this room that had like a metal floor. And it was like this dome that was like 2 miles tall. I didn't have any pillars. It looks like being inside an egg. And it had these little chutes, kind of like almost not as wide as water slides, but I guess you just kind of jump in, you just kind of go to the earth. And I was in one of those things coming down the earth. It kind of reminded me when I was coming down being born, because I actually remember that part coming down to the earth when I was going to be born. It was so like I just remember you coming down the earth, going into the apartment, going through the attic, and feeling the heat. Everything. It's kind of crazy. And coming right back in my body and feeling all that pain and emotional crap. It was very painful to come back. It physically painful, but the emotional, it was all in the body. It was insane. All that depression and horribleness and all your appetites, it was in the body. It was insane. But it came back super psychic at that time. I mean, it was crazy how they gave you an owner manual. You didn't know how to work with this. You know, I knew things. I knew who would be on the phone, what it was about. I remember my friend DJ called. Hi, DJ. Yeah, come on over. I know what happened. Click. Didn't even let him talk. He shows up. I told him exactly what happened. I think I was a witness for him. You know, I would know what song would come on the radio in the next few minutes. I would know when it'd be pulled over. I knew if there was going to be an accident. In fact, when I tried to move to Utah, last time I seen him, I was taking him home. And I says, Darren, I got to a fork in the road. I says, please keep an eye out. I says, I have a feeling we get a car wreck. But if I take the higher road, this is God. This is a miracle for me, by the way. This is a God thing. I says the accident will be less severe. So I remember going up this hill and looking both ways. And so it was clear and turning. And this car does a star skiing hatch and just jumps this hill and hit me broadside in the driver's door. Moves my car about 15, 20 feet. And as that happened, there's a flashlight that covered the car. Now he saw it too. We talked about it later, but this flash and this car my car was totally protected. Can you believe that? The black marks on my tires were over there. That car, the other guy's car, his hood went up, smashed up like this. His grill was all over the ground. His front window shattered and everything. And his car, it was pretty almost total, I would think. And everybody's jumping out, semi trucks and people off the street. Are you okay? You okay? We saw everything. And they were going to give me the phone. Back in the 80s, they actually cared. They gave you information. They didn't walk away. And it's okay. And I talked to the guy. He says, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." I said, "It's okay." My car was okay. Darren, I had a little dent in my bumper. It was rubber, and Darren just went, our DJ popped it out. My car was totally fine. And my car, my plates weren't completely licensed, so I wanted to get the hell out of there, right? So
Mm.
anyway, that's what I did. So I forgive you. I'm not going to charge you or anything. You're good to go. I'm out of here. It took off. That was the last time I see. I was taking him home because I didn't be because in about 24 hours later I was in Utah.
Oh wow.
So I was taking him home, and I said some prophetic things that did happen to him over him and stuff like this. But he on the way back says, "Did you see that light? It was like a camera flash." I've heard that from other people, like being car wrecks or some guy falling out of the parachute just before he impacted. There was a bright flash, and the guy was okay.
Mm.
Airplane and the
Oh.
parachute. Yeah, and stuff like that. So, I was protected, and I was able. My efforts weren't hindered to change my life or anything. So I moved to Utah and changed my life. Started studying all the different religions and kind of just was born again. And it was crazy. It was then I was guided to a lot of people. I had a lot of loss. My best friend, I lost my best friend and their family, all these misunderstanding stuff. But years later, you see how God's taking the wheat from the chaff type of thing.
Mm.
You learn these things for spiritual lessons later. So I see how it wouldn't have helped me spiritually grow. But back then, it kind of sucked. I was like, "What's happening to me?" And all of a sudden, nothing would work. My car would stop working. All these dumb things would happen, and all this. It was just really trying. But now I understand. Now I'm older and seeing it. So that's pretty much the bulk of my white experience. Thank you for the opportunity to share that. It's and some of the funny moments that out of body as a child, that was cool. I wish I could fly around like I did like that as a
Ah.
child. That was cool.
Oh no, thank you so much. I was intrigued by the whole story, and I know that's just a fraction of all the things you've experienced. So thank you. No, no,
Oh
I
yeah,
was
thank you for the
yeah.
opportunity.
Yeah, yeah, no, no. I mean, usually I talk a lot more, so
It's totally good, man. You got great energy, man. I love
yeah,
when we talk, dude.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, yeah, I really don't feel like there's I was just gonna add something to that thing that you said when you were talking about how your friend that you had, that you had seen each other.
Oh yeah.
Like that's happened to me so many times where I've dreamt of people and then when I see them and I keep kind of trying to see, but no one ever remember. So I'm waiting to get that experience. Like
Yeah.
I'm always like, I dreamed of this person, and I've dreamed of them a lot of times. I've never even met them in person. Sometimes it's people I'll find them on social media. I'm like, hey, and then I'll start like testing the what, hey, I had a dream about you and this and that, or they'll keep coming into my dreams but no one, yeah, I haven't had that. I've been waiting, like all these people that I dream about one of them eventually has to be like, oh yeah, I dreamed of you too, like, or we know each other from wherever, right? Like, but
That's
yeah,
right.
so
Yeah. That's
yeah.
stuff. That does have. I haven't had dreams quite like yours, but I've had them. Before. Like I remember, I had a dream probably 2 or 3 years after my experience, and then about 2 years after this dream, because I used to go to different churches for certain to learn and stuff like that. I went into this Greek Orthodox church, and I had this moment where I saw the different kind of candles. I said, "Damn, this is familiar." I saw
Mm,
this lady do it. It was like deja vu moment, and I saw this lady kissing this icon, which was kind of different. Like, wow, I've seen this. I've
mm,
seen this before. And then when I went into the chapel, the sanctuary area, and you saw like the picture of the Christus and everything, the Christ on the top, then it all came back. I'd seen this moment in time. And I don't dream. I'll sometimes get impressions or knowingnesses, more like clear knowing. But I had seen this exact moment a couple of years before, so I just took it as a sign. It was cool. Then later, I connected people that went there.
oh wow.
But it's really neat. But I've also met people that you never met before, but like one of the times I was in Seattle to visit my dad, 97. I didn't talk to this person. I was in the car, and I happened to look up. This lady was standing on the sidewalk, and I look up, and she's looking, and she looked at me and was like, "We recognize each other. I know you. Never seen that. We didn't even get to talk, but we knew each other." And then
Mm,
I drove off, and it's like she was looking back. It's like that you know someone, but you didn't. You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
from that maybe the pre-existence or something like that. Oh,
yeah.
I should say. Let me add some. Um, Before I was sent back Earthside. Thanks, Lord. I didn't want that, but anyway, I was allowed to have some premortal memory,
Mm,
and so before coming to Earth, um, I was in a garden with the Lord, and I don't know what we were talking about. It was something to do with the with my mission on Earth. So I was in the beautiful garden, and you know who Morpheus from the Matrix is? He'd walk with his arms behind him like that.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
before I got fat, I was able to do that. But anyway, that's how I used to walk. I was walking like that with the Lord, like Morpheus, and we're just talking. And that's all I remember, just about 3 or 4 seconds. Like, well, in a beautiful garden, we're talking to the Lord, and we were talking about the things that I would be needing to do when I come to Earth. Wow. And so I'm allowed to have that neat memories.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
That's cool, man.
Oh man, well, thank you, Eric, so much. It's been an honor. Maybe we could do it again sometime.
Amen.
Yeah, and so, yeah, it's been an honor. Thank you so much for sharing. And yeah, just so there's something I wanted to share with you real quick that I'm gonna do it off of this thing. So sure. Just everyone that joined us and watched this, thank you so much. I'll put all of Eric's information if you wanna. It's fine, right? If people want to contact you.
Yeah, totally. Do it through Facebook. Amen. Do it.
Okay. And so I'll put all the information in the description. And yeah, that's it. Thank you once again.
Have a blessed one, everybody.
Thank you.
Life may move fast, or it may move slow. I met a silly man who said he'd make it snow. We look up out towards space, or even at the sky. One day pass away, but never look inside. Breathe in, breathe out. Life is a maze, but we'll figure this out. I mean, human beings, I ain't got no doubt.
That's right. Yeah, sometimes you're just feeling it, you know what I'm saying? You're just feeling it. And I want to feel this way forever.